Season 1 of Severance introduces Mark Scout, a lonely and depressed man who works for the company Lumon Industries. Like many other Lumon employees, Mark has voluntarily gotten the severance procedure, in which a microchip implanted in the brain severs his work life from his home life. And so, every time he takes the elevator to his office, his innie persona forgets all knowledge of the outside world and only knows of an existence designed to meet his quotas. After taking the elevator out of his office, the outie Mark has no knowledge of anything he's subjected to while at work. This should theoretically improve the quality of life for Lumon employees on the outside, as life is perceived as all pleasure and no business. But Mark begins to develop a nagging sense of unease. At Lumon, Mark works for the macro data refinement division alongside the optimistic company man Dylan George and the seasoned Irving Bailiff, where their job is to innocuously sort encrypted numbers into digital bins, seemingly at random. The team is closely watched by their unsevered superior Seth Milchick, who dutifully serves their manager Harmony Cobel. Mark is promoted to department head after his best and only work friend Petey abruptly leaves the company. And so Mark is tasked with training a new coworker Helly, who at first resists the idea of being an innie, subjected to an existence exclusively filled with work, while her outie gets to live a carefree life on the outside. Helly tries multiple methods to communicate with her outie about her displeasure working for Lumon and desire to quit, but her outie refuses, coldly forcing the innie Helly to remain on the job. As her superior, Mark is punished for Helly's rebellious actions by being sent to the torturous break room. In the hopes of inspiring Helly to be proud of her work, Mark, Dylan, and Irving take her to the Perpetuity Wing, which details the history of Lumon, including offering details about its founder, Keir Eagan, and its current CEO, Gemma Eagan. Unfortunately, this does nothing to calm Helly's rebellious attitude, as innie Helly's battle for autonomy with her outie version grows more serious and possibly deadly. Wellness counselor Miss Casey is tasked to monitor her. Innie Mark finds a map that Petey had drawn of the severed floor and hidden for him to find, and brings Helly in on uncovering the conspiracy in the hopes of inspiring her. As the pair explore the severed floor together, they develop feelings for each other and discover many strange secrets, including a room filled with baby goats that a worker cryptically explains aren't ready yet. When Milchick and Cobel discover Miss Casey's failure at properly watching Helly, the counselor is sent to the break room for punishment. Outside of the office, outie Mark is depressed following the death of his wife Gemma, and chose to take part in the severance procedure in the hopes of creating a version of himself that is free from his immense grief. His only sources of human connection are his pregnant sister Devon and her eccentric self-help author husband Ricken. One day, Mark is visited by a stranger who identifies himself as Petey, his best friend from work whom outie Mark has no memories of. Petey explains that secret benefactors who opposed the severance procedure helped him escape Lumon and reintegrate into the outside world with his memories intact. And now, Petey wants Mark to join him in uncovering the secrets of Lumon's business and bring down their inhumane operation. Unfortunately, Petey begins to grow confused by his surroundings and struggles to differentiate past from present. Petey eventually dies from his condition, seemingly due to a conflict in the reintegration of his innie and outie personas. Unbeknownst to the outie Mark, is his seemingly kindly neighbor Mrs. Selvig is actually his manager at Lumon, Harmony Cobel, secretly spying on him. As a growing anti-severance sentiment begins to build throughout the world, Cobel does everything she can to prevent Mark from uncovering and exposing Lumon's company secrets. When Devon leaves Mark one of Ricken's self-help books to read in the hopes of lifting his spirits, Cobel steals it and gives it to Milchick to check for any possible hidden messages. After giving birth to their baby, Devon and Ricken hire Mrs. Selvig as their lactation consultant, unaware that she is actually the duplicitous Cobel getting closer to their family to spy on Mark. Devon also befriends a woman named Gabby at a birthing lodge, who then completely forgets her at their next encounter. Disturbed by this, Devon researches Gabby and discovers that her husband Angelo is a state senator and vocal advocate for the severance procedure. Devon theorizes that the procedure is now being used outside of the workplace, and that Gabby had severed herself to avoid the traumas of childbirth. Back inside the office, the innie Mark has a wellness session conducted by Miss Casey, where she reveals details about his outie's life. When Miss Casey then instructs Mark to sculpt his feelings with clay, he inadvertently crafts a tree that resembles the one his outie visited following Petey's death, signifying a convergence of his two halves' memories. Elsewhere in the offices, Irving stumbles upon Ricken's self-help book in Milchick's possession. Despite Ricken's writings being reductive and panned in the outside world, the innies find the book to be revelatory and inspiring. Irving then meets the head of the optics and design department, Burt Goodman. Irving and Burt immediately bond over their shared love of art, but their budding romance is strained due to a long-standing feud between MDR and O&D, which dates back to a supposed war between the rival departments years prior that resulted in many casualties. Mark rallies the employees of MDR and O&D to work together to uncover all of Lumon's secrets and discover what the company their entire existences are built around actually does. While at O&D, Dylan becomes curious about a strange infographic card and secretly pockets it to bring back to his office in MDR. That night, the outie Dylan is playing with his son when Milchick calls him and briefly activates his innie version outside of the office. As Milchick demands to know the location of the stolen card, the innie Dylan discovers that his outie has a happy home life with a son. He reveals to Milchick the location of the card, and the outie Dylan is given back control of his body. But at work the next day, the typically Lumen loyal Dylan is now consumed by his desire to reunite with his son. And so he decides to join Mark and Helly's rebellion, devising a plan to break into Lumen's control room and wake up their innie selves in the outside world. When a heartbroken Irving discovers that Burt is retiring, meaning the pair will never see each other again, he similarly becomes inspired to join his colleague's mission. Back on the outside, outie Mark is visited by Ragabi, a former Lumen employee who was the secret benefactor that helped Petey escape and reintegrate his two halves. Ragabi explains that she was the one responsible for implanting severance chips in Lumen employees, and offers to help remove Mark's. But before she can, the pair are caught by Cobel's enforcer Grainer, though Ragabi kills the man and gives Mark his Lumen access card, instructing him to ensure his innie receives it the next day. Back in the Lumen offices, the innie Mark discovers that his outie has left him Grainer's access card, giving him and his allies the ability to access the control room. Before enacting their escape plan, Mark is forced to take part in a final wellness session with Miss Casey. Cobel secretly watches the session and is disappointed that neither Mark or Miss Casey are able to recognize each other from the outside world, as Miss Casey is in fact Mark's presumed dead wife, Gemma. And so, Cobel orders Milchick to escort Miss Casey to the ominous testing floor. Meanwhile, Cobel is fired by the Lumen board after they discover her failures at properly quelling the innie Helly's rebellious nature that threatens the life of her outie, and for Cobel's own unsanctioned spying on Mark as Mrs. Selvig. This devastates Cobel, who denounces her faith in the cult-like Eagan family. As Milchick escorts Cobel out of the Lumen offices, Mark, Helly, Dylan, and Irving enact their plan. Dylan uses Grainer's access card to break into the control room and activate the overtime contingency, waking up the innie versions of Mark, Helly, and Irving at night. On the outside, Irving discovers that his outie is a lonely artist, whose paintings depict things he subconsciously remembers from inside the Lumen offices. When Irving seeks out Burt to reunite in the real world, he is heartbroken to discover that Burt's outie is in a relationship with another man. Helly discovers that her outie is in fact Helly Eagan, the powerful and high-ranking daughter of Lumen CEO James Eagan. Helly discovers that her outie chose to take part in the Severance program to prove that the Eagan family are willing to put their own lives on the line as proof that severance is a safe and viable practice, in the hopes of gaining them government support. Mark is shocked to discover that his outie is a widower, then confesses to Devon that he is an innie and asks for her help in taking down Lumen once and for all. When Mark unknowingly calls Cobel by her real name instead of her fake name Mrs. Selvig, she realizes that Mark's innie is in control of his body. Devon realizes that Selvig is a fraud who can't be trusted, while Cobel is re-inspired in her faith in Eagan and Lumen, and calls Milchick to warn him about the overtime contingency. Cobel then races to an Eagan gala to expose Helly, who then publicly reveals herself as an innie who will stop at nothing to bring down Lumen for their torturous practices, even if it means going against her outie self. As the season comes to a close, Milchick breaks into the control room to stop Dylan and turn off the overtime contingency. At the same time, the innie Mark discovers a picture of his wife Gemma and recognizes her as Miss Casey. Just before Milchick places the outie Mark back in control of his body, the innie Mark exclaims to Devon that his wife is still alive.